I was going to make a very different video. A video about how I've raged with Phoenix, and it was the actual first game that made me rage while I was dumping in quarter after quarter. I probably spent $1,000 on this game. I never got good at it. I hate it. I love to hate it, I better say. But while looking this up, trying to get information for the video, I went down a rabbit hole that really is just a mystery for the last 45 years. Can you tell me who programmed Phoenix? You probably can't. Hello humans, and welcome to another episode of Gen X Gamer. If you're from my generation, you remember Phoenix. You remember a game that confused us because it was one of the first games that have buttons instead of a joystick to go back left and right. And you remember the gameplay. What you're seeing here is on the game station. By the way, Game Station Go, that's how I captured this footage. But the game would do things that were like completely amazing to us kids back in the 1980s. Right? We were used to Space Invaders, Galaxian. These birds, these were actually birds of prey. They would come down and hunt you, right? And hunt you down. They'd stay in your nightmares. This thing was a quarter-eating machine. This thing would do things that were unheard of, right? This game was so unfair that you could only shoot up, and the birds would come right next to you, right? And just crash into you. There's nowhere to go. You couldn't go up, you couldn't go down. You just sat there like an idiot, right? Just waiting to die if they caught you at the right moment. Not only that, these were kamikaze birds. Another thing they would do, they would go underneath the screen, right? Underneath the screen, you couldn't see them, and then would pop back up right in your cornhole. You're dead, right? These are the things that made me rage as a kid, but I love the game. Right, it was one of those games, and I don't know if it happens to you guys, games that you love but you're never good at. You keep on playing them all your life. Right? I've been playing Phoenix all my life, and at one point I was decent. I was never good. Right? I was never good. I remember I was raging at this thing, and one of my friends asked me, "Oh, how many times have you been to to the station? You know, the final boss?" And I felt like that coach going, "Playoffs? Playoffs? What are you talking about I'm like, I haven't even seen it. I've gotten stuck at the big birds. What are you talking? I was even more pissed off, right? And I'm like, dude, calm down, man. I'm telling you, it must have been $50 afterwards that I finally got to the boss, you know, to the Phoenix station, right? To the mothership, if you will. And, you know, I just have great memories with this game. You know, even as I got older in life, wherever I went, if there was a Phoenix machine in any arcade, I would play it mandatory, right? Mandatory. I could say, you know, quite safely that I've spent over $1,000 in quarters playing this game, right? But in looking up the information for the game, I came up with a mystery. Nobody knows who programmed this game, at least not that I could find. If you guys can tell me, please tell me, because then I could actually do a proper history of the game. You know, I was looking for an interview for the creator because I wanted to see who was the sadistic son of a bitch that put me through all this stuff, right? Who programmed this nightmare of my childhood, this enjoyable, lovable nightmare of my childhood that I call Phoenix. You know, it made being 12 and 13 years old a complete nightmare sometimes, right? I go in there and lose my dollar within 10 minutes and I'd just be pissed, you know? I'd just be so pissed. But at the same time, I would have a great time playing the game. But I could never find it. I started looking up and, well, let me just show you what I found. I wrote, like always, right? I wrote a SubStack article with all the details, but I'll give you all the major points if you want to get to the nitty gritty. Just, you know, go to Substack. It's free. You can sign up. And I have all the references where I pulled stuff from, right? I did everything I could. I looked stuff up. I looked at my old magazines. I even went through ChatGPT. I went through another Chinese AI. There's nothing, man. I couldn't find anything. I couldn't find any guy that put his name on it and said, I made this. I'm the one who made you rage. I'm the one who made you cry. Well, let's get into it, guys. Let's check it out. All right, guys, so I went down this rabbit hole, and if you guys know, please let me know. But I can't find anything. I don't know who made this game. I really don't. The only thing we have here is TPN Corporation. Right? That's right on the video game, and it's also on some motherboards. The problem with TPN Corporation is that there is no address, there's no staff credits, there's nothing else, right? And if you look in most historical databases, TPN, at least what I could find, guys, this is why I'm asking for help in case you guys can find anything else. All there is the TPN Corporation as a Japanese developer, but there's no record of this company making any other games. And when you look at publications, whether it's, like Game Machine, Amusement Press, those type of things, there's nothing else credited to this company. It appears to be that this is just something that they created for this particular game. Now, the other company you come across is Hiraoka and Company Limited, right? The problem with this company is that it still exists, but it manufactures industrial fabrics, not video games. There's no evidence that this company ever worked in game development. From what I can tell, just coming from a business background, they just handled the exporting of the game, right? They handed it over to them because they're already a manufacturer and they have export licenses and what have you. So they probably did it through them, but that's the only reason. There is nothing that company does that would relate to the Phoenix game. Now, here in America, you can pick up the trace because Amstar Electronics from Phoenix, Arizona, they're the ones who licensed the game, most likely from TPN or Hiraoka, and they sold it through Century, right, which distributed the titles here in America. But that's pretty much where the trail ends. I even looked at the lawsuit, the famous lawsuit with Demon Attack and iMagic. So I try to look at the documents there, but the documents only relate back to Amstar. They don't talk about anything else. Now, I even went as far as try to look at some copyright stuff, right, from the patent office. And there's no entry for TPN Corporation. The registered U.S. copyright belongs to Amstar Electronics for the arcade version. Japan's copyright listings reveal no entry for either TPN or Hiraoka in relation to Phoenix. All that remains are fragments. TPN Corporation is credited on some arcade boards. Hiraoka is possibly acting as a Japanese licensor, right? Amstar, holds a U.S. distribution rights, and Atari was the one that defended the home litigation. But why does it matter, right? Why am I talking about this stuff? I mean, for players of a certain age, known as old guys, me, the old man cringe community, right, who play video games, Phoenix was a very important game. It was the first game of that type that made you feel that you were being hunted. It was aggressive. It was the precursor, right, to a lot of the hell shooting games, hell shooters as they call them. And it was punishing. It was precise, unfair at times. As I told you, the birds go underneath the screen where you can't see them, and they come back up. Or they'll stand right by your side and crash into you. There's nowhere to go. You can't fire sideways. You're screwed. Right? Once they get beside you and you're out of room, that's it. You're done, right? Sometimes they'll fly up if you're far enough to one side, right? You can outlast them. But it have many things, right? It has many very special things that make this game special, like the mothership, stuff like that. And this mystery, it's really a strangeness, right? Where you have somebody that could come out and claim, hey, look, I programmed this. I made this game from the 80s that was symbolic for a lot of people, and nobody is claiming it. Nobody's stepping out to the plate, and that is absolutely crazy, right? It's a fixed shooter, one of the more important ones. By 1981, it had sold over 500,000 units. It made all kinds of money, and still
there's nobody, and I mean nobody, that's stepping up to the plate and said, yes, I programmed this nightmare that made you cry back in the day. All those little kids were crying because of me, and they spent thousands of dollars on my game.
Well, guys, that was a video. Thank you so much for stopping by. If you like these kind of videos, let me know, because I really do enjoy making them. All these games have a story. I don't want to go back and look at those stories like the one about Phoenix, where I couldn't, I don't know who made it. I want to thank them, but how will you thank somebody that we don't know? We don't know who it is. There's a corporation there, but what is that? I want to know who made it. Guys, thank you so much for stopping by the channel. Please, if you haven't done so, subscribe. Hit that like button for me. You tell me, are there any games that you're not particularly good at, but that you love? Do you have any ideas for the show? Let me know. Thank you so much. Remember, subscribe, like, join if you can. I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.